this floor think straight anymore. Out on the street, when walking in a punishing heat, nobody meets my eyes except witty signs and luxury designs. Every neon sign, every flashing light tries to fool you, get you on their side. Everybody swears they need you, and only you to make the buy. You feel flattered to be wanted, and you don't know why. It reminds me of that look in your eyes. Never enough in a world without trust, having to rely upon the honesty of less told, like it's almost the same as love. And no sign, every flashing light tries to fool me. There are words just stretching out my mind to take in every word but story. Nothing needs you so badly as a lie, so lonely drifting away from real life, begging somebody to keep it alive. Living rough in a world without trust, having to rely upon the honesty of lust. You have to make yourself wanted to get what you want to, but nothing but this broken price clinging to you, but blank in the eyes. One is a feeling you can't take alive. Do I feel that desire like a slip? Not a feel out of desire, nothing caught. I fell out of the fire. It wasn't even hard. I could feel nothing, no. My heart was honest. You tried to direct it, but it was connected to something I can't explain. Immersed in all my pain, like a wooden ceiling drain, breaking apart everything. I never knew it. I tried so hard to cut through it. Living rough in a world without trust, determined, broken open, and refusing to adjust. I swear to God, I saw real life once. Nothing needs you so badly as a lie, so lonely drifting away from real life. If nobody believes it, all they can do is die.
Recorded live in Philadelphia, it's the Weather Station with a performance of Neon Signs. It's from the new album Humanhood, and joining me to talk about it is Tamara Linderman of the Weather Station. It's a pleasure to meet.
Yeah, hello.
Welcome to World Cafe.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as I understand it, I know this record was a little bit different to make and think about as opposed to the last two albums. And, you know, a lot of the last two records thinking about climate change and climate grief and awareness, this feels like a much more introspective record. Can you tell me what you were thinking about, where your head was at when you started work on Humanhood?
I was just going through a personally difficult time. It was like one of these times where all of the sort of markers of your life fall away, like the narrative kind of dissolves and you're a little bit lost, which we've all been through. And, I think it was a really strange time, and it was a strange time to like express myself because I felt very lost. So when I started this record, I felt like the songs were just so fragmented and strange, and I didn't like that. I wanted it to be coherent, but then I realized like this experience I'm going through, first of all, is one that many people experience.
Yeah.
So it's my job as an artist to reflect it and express it. And I also realized the record kind of started to have this story, this arc, where it's like, it's the story from like being in that disorientation and then coming out of it. That's the story. So I then was able to use how I felt to understand what I needed to do and how the record needed to sound. But yeah, I worked very hard on this record, and I've never spent so much time in the mix and the sonics of it, like really working on it. And I'm really proud of it.
That's very cool. And Humanhood, the title, I know you got a lot of joy calling it that because you've had conversations with people talking about that word and what it means to them and what it means to you. Like, what have these past few months, what have you learned about humanhood now having to have it out in the world and live with that word and that idea behind it?
I mean, it's so funny. I still feel kind of guilty when I hear someone say it because I feel like I forced you to say this odd word, but I do love that it's this word that exists, it's a real word, but we never use it. And yet it's so, as a title, like what a gift, where it's like, it's this fresh word that somehow sums up, the major topic of all art, which is like the human condition.
The human experience,
and then it's in one word. And I'm like, I can't believe I found this word. And I love that it's bringing up conversations of what it is to be a person and what it is to be human, which feels very relevant in this moment with like AI and big tech and all of these sort of forces shaping in our world in what feels to me a very like anti-human way. And it's funny too, because people aren't used to feeling solidarity. People are used to kind of being like, I'm a group and you're a group, but it's like there are many things we all share as experiences. So yeah, it's been a real wonderful door to a lot of conversations.
You make a really great point that it's like, I bet it's been a long time since people really understood the inverse of that, or what it is to be dehumanized. And when you talk about the tech oligarchs or the pervasive feeling of social media, and an idea to break down barriers, but instead they're putting up bigger walls, like it's harder to be a human now, I think, than a lot of times in the past.
It is, yeah. And it's really, I think it's throwing into relief what it is to be human and how like fragile and vulnerable we are. I think since all the AI stuff, that I find myself thinking about that and noticing how I get tired and, like I'm malleable and I'm flawed. And I think we're all realizing that. And also it's like, well, who are we building this world for? Like, who is this for? I think that a lot when I'm moving through the modern world. I'm like, who does this serve? It doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve, like, we know what people like. We like community. We like, nice places to go eat and see each other, and then we're just building this more tech world that I don't think is really helping anyone.
Yeah. This is World Cafe, talking with the Weather Station. The new album is Humanhood. And I was immediately drawn to this line in Mirror. I don't make the rules. I just watch them unfurl like smoke always rising from the fires of the world. Do you remember where a lyric like that jumps into your brain?
I mean, I do remember that song, just that riff and that melody, which felt to me, it's a folk song. It's a folk melody. And I just felt like I just had so many couplets of like that melody and that riff because, I didn't really know what or who I was addressing, but it's just this like you in the song. It's like this, the world, and I do. Yeah. That's one of my favorite lines in that song as well. Cause I feel that all the time. It's like, I don't know why we are the way we are or the world is the way it is, but you do just see how it is. Yeah, you see it unfurl. And I don't know. Yeah, I described it better in the lyric, to be honest.
We're going to hear you do
Yeah.
that right now. It's a live performance of Mira from the weather station here on World Cafe.
What this dirty old thing? Can't you see that it's broken? Won't hold anything. You said in your anger and pain, impatiently weaving toward everything. All the memories and stories, the gifts that you got, ragged and ancient, smelling of water. Well, I can't say I blame you. What else can I do? A bad education got hold of you. Story was thick and you fell right through. You know it happened to me before it happened to you. Oh, but put up your ears, your lips, your skin. No matter how jangled, signals come in, and all that passes over everything. You were touched by as much of it as anything. Don't make the rules, I just watch them unfurl like smoke always rising from the fires of the world. You were dousing your fields in a chemical ray. You were cutting my arm to transcend your own pain. Oh, but God is a mirror. Everything is. If you come a little nearer, everything slips. Silver moon from the lines of your eyes, as if into a pool, back up again to life. Come back at you, doubled in size.
Recorded live on World Cafe, that is Mirror from the Weather Station. It's from their new album, Humanhood. I am talking with Tamara Lindemann of the Weather Station about the new album. And her last record started recording during the pandemic, and I wanted to know, how did the vibes compare while working on Humanhood?
It was great. Yeah. I feel like I just found the right people who would go together in the right way,
Yeah.
And I think every time I make a record, I learn just a few more things that are helpful about how musicians are. And, it was just a really fun session. We went to the same studio I've now made 3 records in. And I really set an intention to let them do a lot of improvising and let them discover and be rehearsed, but not too rehearsed. So a lot of these moments that are some of my favorite moments on the record were found in the moment. Mm-hmm. And it was just great. It was a great session, and everyone, I can really hear everyone's spirit on the record. Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
it feels like everyone contributed. When you say you learn a little bit more about the musicians that you're working with, what are you learning and how is it helping you?
I'm a perfectionist.
You're a perfectionist?
Oh yeah. So that's a big thing for me, is always learning how to ask for things, but know to choose your battles, or know not to be too perfectionist with collaboration, because it's so easy to when you've got that brain on, then you're you start nitpicking, and then people feel uncomfortable,
and then they're not giving
and then
their
they
best
don't play,
performances.
So I think I learned how to sit back a lot more.
Ooh.
And give more freedom, and let people try what they wanted to try, and then be oh, this is amazing, because people are so creative and they have so much to offer. And so, yeah, learning that for sure. I wouldn't say I'm fully learned that, but definitely getting better every time at I'm still not the best leader, but I've learned more about how to bring people together, and also, I think just having a good understanding of each band is different. I've always had different bands for different albums, and sort of looking at the people, knowing their instincts, and being how will these people mix together, and not putting people in a position where I'm asking them to not be themselves, where I'm oh, don't play that, play this. It's bringing someone who they're going to play the thing that's going to work, because that's going to be their instinct, know?
Sonically, I wanted to talk about this, especially when I saw the blurb or PR that came with the record, and it said, "This is the weirdest the Weather Station has gotten musically." What is making something weird mean to you?
I really loved finally having the courage and the sort of know-how to be I want this to be cinematic. I think of albums very visually, or a landscape, and I was and here you open a door and it goes into this, I felt I finally trusted myself enough to actually say that to my collaborators, instead of just sitting in the corner being can we turn down the reverb? It's I finally was able to be I want it to be this way, or just recognizing that it was okay to have feelings about colors, or textures of songs, paintings. I just had a great time. And yeah, once again, shout out to Joseph Lorge, who mixed the record. Really, really special engineer. And it was a very loving process, and he's a really special mixer. So that's also a big part of why the record sounds so cool.
Body Moves, it's a slow burn in the song. I would love to know, what would you tell someone who's listening to it for the first time, what to listen for?
Oh, it's sunset, it's dream. It's half asleep, half awake,
right.
It is a really painful song. It was really hard to find that line between the sharpness of it and the beauty of it. It's very on a line. But yeah, I was thinking a lot about, times in life where people around you do strange things that you don't understand, or you watch someone go through a dark or self-destructive time, and it's really painful to watch. It's really hard.
Be a passenger
It's really
of that.
hard when people are going through stuff. But sometimes there is something, if you look at the broad picture of their life, where sometimes people are acting strangely because of a context you don't understand.
Right.
And sometimes like I did find this sort of grace in this idea of like sometimes the body, is trying to help you. And if you don't listen, it starts to get more frantic and do worse things. But like your animal self, I do want to believe is like wants to lead you towards good things.
Good things. Yeah.
Like when we get down to it and we work through all that stuff, what we want is like good things that, like community and, to be outside and, all of these beautiful things. And sometimes we're caught in situations where we can't be ourselves. And, sometimes it takes this like ugliness to break out of that. But yeah, in terms of that song, it's funny where it's like such a tricky topic, but yet I think we treated it with such like softness that it kind of slides through and you can like take it in without it being too like
in your face or abrasive.
Yeah, abrasive or like, yeah.
It feels like it welcomes you into that conversation without being too judgmental.
Yeah. It's really important to me to not be judgmental. Yeah.
Let's take a listen to it. Recorded live here in Philadelphia. It's the Weather Station with Body Moves.
It's the end of the world. You said your body fooled you, your body moved you out. Now you can't go home again. You were crying, you're so confused. Why your body fooled you, your body moved you out of that thing that you were in. In the cold sweat blood in your arms, you want somebody. You caused the harm, you made it so you had to confess. 'Cause you can't hide that bad man. You were hiding arms, space, and now you messed around and you failed the test. You made it so you had to undress the body that's beneath all of this. The end of the world. Your eyes, they fool you. Your eyes, they move you now. You see it way too far. Scared, lost, under duress. You're begging someone for forgiveness. You don't know what you had to address. Your body fooled you. Your body moved you. Yes, now what you had to do was figure out why it had to fool you. Were you lost or were you blind? Were you trying too hard to be kind? Truth was lies. Was it some kind of trap that you devised to keep yourself from getting out? Ooh, but it hurt so much, but you knew what it was you loved. And again, look at this mess. Your body fooled you, your body moved you, yeah.
Recorded live in Philadelphia, it's the Weather Station. It's Body Moves, and it's from the new album, which is available now, called Humanhood. Hanging out with Tamara. I am Kallao. It's World Cafe. You know, the last time you were on the show, you talked with our host, Raina Duras, about your work with climate activism and understanding climate change and climate grief. And I know that this is something that you've been talking about and thinking about for almost a decade. The Elephant in the Room panels that you did several years ago, I remember watching one of those. Why do you think you raised your hand? Because so many people know, but don't actually want to do anything about it.
I guess 2018, I had been touring really heavily for a while, and I was home, and I felt like I'd spent my whole life thinking about climate in the distance. It was like this thing that I was had always made me feel this deep sense of anxiety or loss, but I had never spoken to a human being about it.
Sure.
I'd never at that time I feel like people didn't talk about it. And I was like, how is it possible that this thing I've felt my whole life, I've never talked to a friend or a partner of do you feel this dread feeling? Do you feel this fear about the future? And, that was the time where, Greta Thunberg, and there was this big upswell of feeling about it. And I literally read a New Yorker article that expressed the whole thing that I didn't know at the time of Exxon knew, and I look back over my life. I was born in the 80s, so I always say, I'm the same age as the climate crisis in a way. I'm the same age as us knowing about this, and to realize that in all the, the couple decades I've been alive, these folks who knew in the 70s, before I was born, they decided to create this misinformation campaign to stop us from knowing, right? And they prepared within their corporation for what would happen, but they created this misinformation campaign in our society so that we wouldn't save ourselves. That to me, it broke my mind.
Yeah.
To know that I could totally understand, it's very difficult to change our infrastructure. It's hard to, build public transit, all of that I understand. But this idea of this company before I was born making this decision that has had this massive impact on the world. And we're still dealing with all this misinformation. We're still dealing with all this disorientation of people who believe it's not real or it's caused by, whatever. We're still dealing with that outcome, which feels like maybe the most consequential decision in human history. And no one talks about it, right?
Sure.
I think that something about that just kind of broke me open. And all of the feelings I'd had of I can't talk about this because I'm a touring musician and I drive in a van.
Don't want to be a hypocrite.
Don't want to be a hypocrite. All of that. I was like, what if that pales my feelings of nervousness of what will people say? What if that just pales in comparison to how important this is? So
Yeah.
I felt like so many people in climate, it's the same story where it's just you just get overwhelmed with I have to do something, right? And you're like, what do I do?
What do you say to people who feel like they don't have agency? Because I'm sure you have people who are I want to do the right thing. I don't know what the right thing is.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard in North America. And I always feel like everyone should have a chance to go to Europe and be on a sidewalk in Copenhagen and watch hundreds of bicycles go by.
Yeah.
And be like, wait, our world here in North America is built in a certain way that makes us very dependent on cars, for example. And it's not anyone's fault. It's not your fault if you drive to work. What
Right,
else are you going to do?
Terrible.
I think that's the thing where it's absolutely that lack of agency is real. It's real because you're living within a system and a society that's operating a certain way, and and I think that lack of agency is fuel to be why do I feel so powerless? How frustrating is that? I don't want to feel powerless. I want to feel aligned with my principles. I want to feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So how do I make noise in my world? Whatever your world is, whether it's you're a teacher and you start, asking your pension plan to shift, whatever it is. I think the old view of a climate activist as someone who's a monk and lives in a tower and doesn't, consume anything is a beautiful idea, but it's not what we actually need. What we need is people to push the story and people to, get annoyed. I mean, I think that's the thing too, where it's that powerlessness is such a trap because it's I'm I don't want to be powerless.
Right. We talk. talking a lot about climate, but I think, that's sort of one half of the equation. I'm curious, like, what's your relationship with nature like?
It's really important to me. I mean, I grew up in the woods, so I spend a lot of time outside, and I definitely have that relationship to the seasons and to like, I live in the city. I live in Toronto, but I definitely need to go to the woods a lot. And I'm lucky that my mom still lives where I grew up, so I get to go there a lot. And I have like a tiny little cabin, and I hang out, and it's
Do you
it's
write
really
in the
important.
cabin? Because
I
that
do.
seems
Yeah,
like...
I do. It's very charming. I do. Yeah. But I also love urban nature too. I love like in the city, there's a lot of birds and a lot of, even raccoons can be kind of cute if you watch them long enough.
Do you find environment plays a huge role in your, like, what you're writing? Like, if you're at a cabin versus being in Toronto?
Oh, no, it definitely matters. And I find like lyrics, I always go back to, if I look at my lyrics, I'm like, oh, another lyric about the sky again. Like I'm just like, it's in every song, like birds, sky, water, it's always there.
Well, that's
And
why I asked about
I can't
the nature
stop
thing.
like returning, but I'm like, I just think it's the place my brain goes to express many things. So yeah, it's very important to me for sure.
This is World Cafe. We're here with Tamara Lindemann of the Weather Station. The new album is called Humanhood. If it's okay with you, I actually want to end with a song that you didn't play live, but is from the album, which is the closing track on the record, because it's absolutely gorgeous. And I feel like it is a beautiful resolution to the album. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Sewing and how, like, did you know when you were working on it, this was going to be the close of the album?
No, but I knew it was a really special song when it came to me. Once again, it just felt like this gift, this metaphor that came to my mind of like the metaphor of the patchwork quilt. I used to have a patchwork quilt that I found in a secondhand store that was like, one of these crazy quilts, where it's just like, it's wild, it's so many colors and textures and shapes. And, I was in this place in my life where, as I described earlier, I felt I had lost that narrative coherence of understanding who I was or where I was going or how the pieces fit together. And there was this very powerful kind of understanding that came to me of like, that's life, when sometimes you have lost the sense of coherence, but like you have to take all the pieces that you think don't fit together and like sew them together, and that leads me to, human fragility and like what it is to be a person and what it is to be in this world, which is going through so much and has lost so much, which is like, all of the pieces that you maybe don't want to include. You want to exile things. You want to exile parts of yourself or memories or things you don't want to be in the picture. It's like there is a power in drawing it in and like looking at it and being like, that also happened. This is also here. And I think as I look outward to the world, I think about that all the time because, we do have to face that. We've lost a lot of time, in terms of climate. We have to face a lot of dark things. And I think where we often go wrong is we want to exclude that. We don't want to look at it. And when we don't look at it, we make bad decisions. We make bad choices because we're not seeing the full picture. And I love also too the quilt because it's soft, it's warm, it's like fabric, it's undulating, as I say in the song. And like this idea of like humanity or a life or an hour.
Yeah.
It's all the same like patchwork of imperfection. And that to me just leads me to a place of knowing how to be in the world or how to handle things. When I think of that patchwork quilt, I know how to go. Because as I've said earlier, I am a perfectionist and I speak from experience of wanting to exclude, but it's all there. Yeah.
Well, let's take a listen. It's Sewing from the Weather Station here on World Cafe.
Some people don't want to see the seams. They want it all done by machine, straight and plain, no traces of making. But no 2 days are ever the same. Sometimes I get hit by a shattering pain. I won't try to forget. I'm going to include it.
It's It's the Weather Station on World Cafe. The song is Sewing. It closes the new album Humanhood, which is available now. Tamara, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming in. Congratulations on the record, and I hope you have a great tour and come back and see us again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You got it. It's Tamara of the Weather Station. We're back in a minute with more World Cafe.